Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter One Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathaniel Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
We're back.
We're so back.
We're back. I was
Hola,
going to wait to see
chicos.
if one of you guys had been
Dale,
back,
vamos.
but I realize that's my responsibility. And we are indeed
We're so back.
back.
And
We
I
are
might,
so
I
back.
might get in a fight with Liam at the end of this, but we'll see.
Yeah, tensions are high here.
We'll see.
in the
We'll see what
stew.
his hot take is.
It's just one hot take.
He's
the
about
only
to
hot
dump
take
all
that
over
matters.
my movie.
We get granular, I'm sure, but
Who do we got here? Is Nathanael Levinson?
Hola, hola chicos, ¿cómo están?
Leventon.
I said, ¿cómo están, gringo?
I don't know Spanish. I took 4 years of it. in high school,
Liam,
but I did
introduce
retain.
our guest for the day.
Nathaniel Levinson, my dear friend. He picked this movie.
Our guest for today. Get out of here.
No, you can't do that.
I'm Mike number one, and this is my guest. My guest, Nathaniel Levinson. Thanks for joining us today,
What if
friends.
you're like, Liam, it's your turn to pick a guest. He's like, okay, you guys are gonna love this guy.
Yeah.
You just immediately calls Nathaniel right then. Like, hello?
What
yeah,
are you
dude.
doing next Thursday?
I'm on the podcast with you. I'm a co-host.
Oh, that's right.
Jakob put you up to this.
Oh man, I don't think Jakob. Yeah, he didn't call in today, did he?
He
Did
said
not
this
get a
No,
message from him?
movie. I did. He said this movie was so low budget he wasn't even going to look at it.
Yeah.
This is like Jakob could pay for this in like a day. He just like with one day of whatever
Yeah.
it is that he does.
He was
could
he was
make this
basically
movie.
like I sneezed and made more money than this. It's not worth my time.
He said something like, I don't watch poor people movie.
Yeah. It
His
was
words.
I mean, yeah, he was basically like, if it didn't cost, the GDP of a small country, I'm not interested.
Yeah. He actually doesn't really care about plots, as
No.
we've found. It's more like the monetary value of the movie he
Exactly.
appreciates.
Well, something that chat's already recognizing. We got a lot of hats here today.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm going to demand Jakob give us actual microphones that I can wear, and then wear hats on top.
You
of.
could I guess put it behind your neck. You could also
I
not
tried
do
to,
the.
and it's
The
so
problem with
soft.
not having the headphones is you don't get all the fun sound bites. But yeah, we got Nathaniel with the fedora. We have chat.
There you go.
got
Close
laughing at that a little bit.
Not really a fedora. It's more of a
Got
trilby,
Liam. What is your hat, Liam?
It's just like a surfer dude hat. I'm from New Jersey, so
Oh.
we kind of surfed.
Oh, dude,
over
how
there,
long
so-
have you surfed?
My whole life, pretty much.
Liam doesn't-
Avid surfer.
Liam
I
does not know how to surf.
I had a comment from a dear friend of mine that said they love Nathaniel's hats. Genuinely, not even a bit.
What's funny is this podcast is the only place I wear hats. So
Yeah.
I don't wear hats
They
normally.
just assume you always wear hats like
Nope.
this. But
And then
no, I've had that comment.
I did bring the big box of hats for the podcast.
I'm rocking the newly branded Chapter One Films hats.
Everyone just thinks it's a YouTube hat that printed wrong.
I've gotten that wearing
I
that hat. Is there a play button?
Yeah, but that's
What is a play
it's
button?
catchy, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I've thought that might be kind of fun is to add an ER after the play button.
Player.
Hey.
No, don't do it.
Right?
Don't do it.
I don't think it's very good.
I don't
No.
think that's good at all.
No.
Wait, what does that mean? Player.
It could mean a lot of things. It could mean like you're
Elaborate on
you're a
it.
player like of whatever game you're playing. Like if
I
you're,
mean, you play
if you're
volleyball. He's a volleyball player.
there you go. You're a player, or it's like
What about like you're a player in the negative sense?
okay,
Yeah.
but
With women.
that's why it's kind of funny though, because it's used in such a nerdy way. It's a play button to a video, and it's like, yeah, I'm a player.
Play buttoner.
You can test
Okay.
that.
You know what,
You can
guys?
test that.
Chat says it's
This
beautiful.
is market research. Me and Nathaniel saying no to
No,
that
no,
idea.
no.
We're the brains behind this
We're
operation. and we say
the
no.
Shark Tank, and we're saying, swim along, buddy.
Yeah.
All right,
I
so
assume I literally have not watched anything of Shark Tank. That's all
They
I
don't.
know
They
about
don't make ocean puns.
Well,
necessarily.
So what are they even doing? Mark Cuban, it's Mark
Nathaniel
Cuban,
just thinks
right?
the whole show is just ocean puns.
What a missed opportunity! If they're not making puns,
that one TV show where they all talk about sharks the whole time.
well, no, I know the premise is like that people are pitching
Yeah. Yes.
like
yes,
business ideas.
Yeah.
But you're telling me, oh, by the way, the only thing I ever know about Shark Tank was it was one of the worst restaurants I ever ate at.
It's
That's a restaurant.
No. Like whoever, like someone pitched a restaurant idea and it got funded. So like it was like as seen on Shark
Oh,
Tank.
really?
Okay. So let me set the stage for you. I'm in Atlanta. I had just spent over 24 hours working on a single experiment. I hadn't slept. I was exhausted. It was like 6 p.m. So I just finished processing my data. So I grabbed one of my friends from the lab, and I was like, I saw this place when I was driving. It was called Tom Plus Chi. It was a tomato soup and grilled cheese place.
Not a bad
And I was
idea.
like, you know what? That sounds like something I want right now. I'm tired. I'm cranky. And I went there, and I've never been more disappointed in a restaurant in my life.
Really? Food-wise or just
Food-wise.
everything? Food-wise.
Food-wise.
It's, you'd think it's hard to kind of screw that up.
Yeah, right? And that's my point. I got like a pretty basic, just like tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich.
Sure.
And the tomato soup was like bland and worse than Campbell's canned tomato soup. And the grilled
Low-key, though,
cheese
Campbell's
was
pretty good.
bland and mushy. And I was like, this is so bad.
It's
And
tough to
keep in
build,
mind, I
yeah.
hadn't eaten in a long time. I was really hungry. I was really tired. I would have eaten like McDonald's would have been a feast at that point. And this food was loathsome.
That's unbelievable.
And my friend got a salad, and they hand it to her, and she opens it up, and it's like all just nasty and wilted. And so she's like, hey, look at this. Can I get a different one? They're like, oh, yeah, sorry about that. Take it away. Make her a new one. Give it to her. And it's wilted and nasty. And we're like, what the
well, to be
what?
fair,
We were like,
ordering
what
a
is-
salad there, you can't expect the best of the best.
We're like, what is this place? And I'm miserable. Like this broke me because I was like, oh, I'm done with this really long experiment. I'm mentally just exhausted. I'm dead. I'm just gonna eat and go home and be happy. And I've never been more disappointed in food in my life.
Cuban.
Ever. I was just so bad. And I was like, if there is any goodness in this universe, this place will shut down immediately.
Did it?
And the next time I drove by, Tom Plus Chi was no longer there. And I was
Wow.
like, thank you, Jesus.
Wow.
He answered my prayers.
What a
my
fail,
my
man.
imprecatory my imprecatory psalms was like, Lord, break the teeth of Tom Plus Chi.
Tom and cheese.
Dash their sandwiches against a rock. This is so bad.
I kind of want to try it.
Dude, it sounds so good on paper. So
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a banger combination. Tomato soup, grilled cheese
Yeah, it's
sandwich.
like comfort
It's
food.
really good. And it was so bad. I would have been better to get some Wonder Bread and some American cheese and a can of Campbell's tomato soup and make it myself, and it would have been better.
We'd have to go to Cincinnati to
Well,
try it. So
Well, in all fairness, though, that's a pretty solid lunch. Just like right there, American cheese with Campbell's tomato soup.
Yeah, but that's
Like
that's
S-tier
my
lunch.
baseline. So I'm expecting a restaurant to be above that baseline, and it was worse than that, and it broke me.
we
It
should do a
broke my
food
soul.
podcast. We like food.
That's a great point, Liam. See, for
should
those
watch
of
The
you
Bear.
tuning in,
We should
we are
actually,
actually we're not here to talk about food
We should
today.
do Tom Cruise's cocktail.
We should do season 3 is only food related movies.
I would be so in for that.
We
I'm not gonna
will
lie.
get you guys up to
Ratatouille.
date.
Julia plus Julia.
Burnt.
Ratatouille. Yeah.
Ratatouille.
I don't like food movies, any of them.
You don't like Ratatouille?
I'm trying to think of the best
We're not friends
food
anymore.
movie ever. Chef movie ever.
That's tough.
Ratatouille, probably.
Ratatouille is my favorite Pixar movie for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's a moment in Ratatouille where he's so it's like after the restaurant, and he meets back up with his brother, whose name I can't remember. Chad, help me out. What's his name? Remy's the name of the main rat, but I can't remember what his brother's name. Emile. His name is Emile. So he meets up with Emile, and Emile's like eating garbage. He's like, "You don't have to eat garbage. You're with me. We're in France." And so he gives him some food. And he just starts scarfing it down. He's like, no, you have to savor it. Here, taste this. And what are you tasting? Like a piece of cheese, like, oh, smooth, creamy, nutty. He's like, oh, I'm detecting nutty. And then he's like, ooh, and it plays music. It's playing music while he's eating it. And then he's like, ooh, now taste this one. And he tastes it, and it's got some different notes. And they're like, now taste them together. And it's like a harmony of the two notes, of the two musics. And then he just starts going off on this tangent of like flavor combinations and the universal flavor. And I'm like, that speaks to my soul in a real way. Like whoever wrote that has done some cooking.
Yeah, it's definitely that one. Willy Wonka, I'm getting.
Yeah, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
There's not a lot of them. You'd think
I was gonna
there'd be
say
more.
this.
To be fair,
is,
Willy Wonka gives us like 3 movies right there. So there's
Yeah,
the original,
yeah.
the remake, and there might have done a sequel.
Well, for those of you tuning in, first off, if you're watching and you can't interact in chat, it means you haven't subscribed. So definitely drop us a like and a subscribe. It helps out the algorithm. And we are not talking about food today or food movies today. We are talking about a movie, or you might want to just call it a film.
Yeah.
It is Ink from 2009.
Yeah.
Recommended by Nathanael. And some of us really enjoyed this, some of us not so much.
And we'll let you guess who.
And
people with good taste in good movies liked it. People with taste in
This
bad
isn't
movies
even a
didn't
film.
like it.
This is a This is a picture. This is what you'd call a picture.
A picture is a great description
No,
for a
it's
movie.
like the
It's a
level of
moving
pretentiousness.
A flick.
The level of pretentiousness is movie, film, picture, and this is picture.
This was I really.
You thought it was
You thought it was
pretentious?
pretentious? Really?
Yeah,
There's
that was
no
a word.
way.
That was a word that popped up in my head. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty straight laced for. I did not.
Well,
think
I
it was
guess we'll
pretentious
get
at all.
into it.
Yeah, we'll get
All
into
right,
it.
so Nathaniel, why don't you give us a brief synopsis of Ink, and just kind of run down. I guess you can you can get to the spoilers.
I'm going to
just-
avoid the spoiler initially.
Okay.
We will be talking about spoilers for this movie.
Yeah.
There's a fairly big twist. I mean, Liam and Greg both called it about halfway through the movie, so it's not like a twist that you don't see coming. They do set it up.
I bet you a lot of people miss that though. I
Yeah.
bet, like it doesn't. You could very well be paying attention the whole time and not see it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's intentional because you really don't see, and we'll get into it, but really you don't see the guy's face
You don't see Ink.
very often.
Yeah.
But you can tell it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get into
so
it.
So anyway,
I think I
so
just spoiled
it's
it,
about
even though
yeah. So okay, so it takes place in a world where there are people who give you good dreams, and then there are creatures called incubus who give you bad dreams. And it establishes this very early, where it's like a neighborhood and everyone falls asleep, and then the people come up and they go into the houses, and then when they touch the person has a good dream. Although we were like, some of the dreams we were like, if you woke up from that dream, you'd be mad.
Worse. You'd almost feel worse. Yeah.
But then the incubi show up and they overshadow people. And now one thing which I don't think you can disagree with is the design of the incubus.
Yes, I totally agree.
Top notch. So they're just like guys in suits, and some of them are wearing like butcher's aprons and like thick rubber stuff, which is even creepier. And they're just wearing like really thick like 80s glasses, and then they have like a cellophane thing taped in front of their face, and their face is like in black, like stark black and white behind it, and they always have these really big creepy smiles. And it's a very striking effect. And now keep in mind, this movie was done on an incredibly like $250,000 budget, so this is a indie film.
Yeah.
And I thought that and that's really what caught my eye when I first found this movie was the design of that. But anyways, the incubi give bad dreams, and so there's a guy named John. He has a daughter named Emma. I think, yeah. And they're separated. So he's this famous, very successful lawyer, I believe, lawyer or businessman.
Lawyer.
And he's estranged from his daughter, you find out, because his wife died and he got really caught up in the business and started drinking. And so the grandparents took custody of his daughter. And then this creature, who we later find out is named Ink, and he's not one of the good dream people, the storytellers, and he's not an incubus. He's this kind of malformed creature that wears this. All see about him
He's
is
like hooded and cloaked.
He's hooded and cloaked, and basically wearing garbage, and he's got chains around him. But he's got this really long nose, like really long
Schnoz.
bulbous nose. Yeah, he's got this man's got a schnoz with 3 Z's.
Yeah, it is huge.
It's a big boy. And he kidnaps the daughter's soul and is traveling to sacrifice her to the incubus, so the incubus will accept them as make him an incubus. So he'll get the powers of an incubus.
He's a drifter.
He's a drifter, yeah. And
As
we
of
find out
now.
that there are others who are also drifters, but he specifically is making his way to the incubi to sacrifice this girl's soul so that he can become an incubus.
And that's
And that's kind of the
And hijinks amongst the way.
Yeah.
Along the way.
and so the
the storytellers
the good
are
characters
trying
are
to stop.
chasing after
Yeah.
him, and the bad characters are kind of also manipulating certain things as well as this goes on. But yeah, that's the
the
synopsis.
basic premise.
All right, so I guess we can start with Nathaniel. This is your pick. So tell us some of the highlights of a movie like this. Like, what really caught your eye about it watching it for the first time?
What caught me the first time is this is back when Netflix gave out DVDs, and I was just like looking for, what should I watch next? And the poster of the incubi with the glowing eyeglasses caught my eye, and I was like, that looks interesting. Read the synopsis, and I was like, well, this is worth a watch. watched it, and I was like, damn, that was actually like a really solid film. I wasn't expecting anything out of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that was actually really good. And that's just kind of how I discovered it. And then I didn't watch it for years. And, you know, like I think like 2010, or no, 2013 or 14, maybe I watched it one more time. So this time was my third time watching it. And I'm still like, it's just a really solid movie. Like, I mean, it was made for peanuts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think technically it's quite impressive what they were able to do with such a shoestring budget.
Right.
Especially in 2009, when I'm guessing the bulk of it went to location and camera equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think it's. I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie. I wouldn't say it's like a masterpiece, but I think it's a really good movie with a really powerful message. And I really love the design of the incubi.
I love that
It's
too.
just so
I think that's really
visually
well done.
striking.
It's very unique. I can't say I've seen anything similar to that as
Yeah.
far as like a villainous creature or creatures
Yeah.
in a movie. Super unique.
Yeah,
So Liam, you saw it for the first time.
Yeah.
Wednesday?
yeah.
Wednesday night.
And you, just tell us what you think about it.
So I'll start with what I thought was good.
Okay.
I thought the child actress was actually
Yeah, she's
phenomenal.
actually pretty good.
Yeah. I thought she was really good and convincing. I thought the score was good. I thought the music throughout was really powerful. Almost like the music seemed like, and this is going to be my like naivety, but like it seemed like it almost belonged in a higher production movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it almost seemed like it didn't fit in some weird way because obviously objectively
Like it seemed like
low
higher
budget.
quality than the budget
Yes,
of the
then
movie.
everything else was representing as far as the low budget. The music seemed like it was on another level. I thought the fight scenes were unique. I thought the choreography for that was unique. That's it. Good
You didn't like the story at all.
That's a good one. Okay, and the message was a positive one.
Okay,
That-
so
that
it had a
usually
good
connects with
message,
me.
It had decent visuals. It had decent music.
Yeah.
It had decent choreography.
You
So,
named all the things.
Yeah.
so what is it that's not
Well,
clicking for
the
you?
acting
So,
was
okay.
horrendous. The acting was horrendous.
I thought it was passable.
The acting was
What do you want
horrible.
from $250,000?
We'll have to talk about
Well,
that.
I
part.
mean, I think monetarily you could still have a good actor and not like you don't have to get George Clooney for this movie, and obviously you're not going to get someone that like we know. But like, I just thought the dad, I thought the storyteller, the main girl storyteller.
You thought the dad? Really?
Really?
Yeah,
I thought
no,
that was
I thought
good.
the dad was not good, and I thought my biggest issue was with the guy with the X's on his
Oh, the
eyes.
Pathfinder? You didn't like the Pathfinder?
I could not stand him. I cringed so hard at him. He was like Dane Cook. He like went to like the Dane Cook School of Acting. It just the whole thing felt like they were trying too hard, and that like they thought they were a bit more clever than they actually were, and yeah, it just didn't resonate with me at all.
Wow. So Liam
just didn't
sitting up in his
resonate.
ivory tower is like, oh, you're not to be
I just like, and that's why I wanted to not take points away, knowing what it was, which is $250,000 indie movie.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not going to be like, oh, the camera work was shit, or like there's no production value or anything like that. I was trying to focus on the things that maybe money doesn't necessarily or shouldn't necessarily correlate with, and I thought the acting was the biggest thing that like really took me out of it.
Money does correlate with actors
Yeah, I was
big
about to
time.
say.
I mean,
I
that is-
think
assuming
all
if
three
you
of us
look
could
at
act better than me.
IMDb,
I think all three of us could act better than
I
these.
think
maybe
you're wrong.
But the thing
I
is,
think all
like,
three
if
of
you
us
look at
could act better
IMDb,
than
a lot
almost
of
everybody.
these people, this is like the only thing they did.
Yeah, I know, and good.
Wow.
because there's a reason for that.
That's pretty snobby.
There's
You're
a
saying
reason for
they're
that.
the ones being
Pretentious.
pretentious?
I call it like I see it. Some of those
Do
people,
you?
the guy with the X's was horrendous. I found myself laughing at it, and not with it at any point in the movie. I was laughing at parts that I was like, I had to like think. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be laughing at that.
Maybe it's like the filmmaker in me that I think I identified pretty quickly that I'm like, okay, this is obviously low budget. Like everybody, if you're in chat and you're planning on watching or you've seen this movie before, or to either of you, yes, it's very obvious very quickly that you're like, this is just it's akin to like a student film almost that's done really
Yeah.
well. So but I guess for me, I can jump into that world pretty quickly and go, okay, if this movie is going to rely on extremely intense acting moments, then maybe it will be terrible. But I don't think it asked too much of the actors. I don't think it asked too much of them. The two people that had to play really emotional roles, arguably three, are the dad, who I thought did a good job. I don't know. I thought that he did fine. He was probably the only one that was asked to do a lot of stuff. You'd say the little girl, she could have been terrible, and it would have been fine, but she was great.
Right.
So I mean, she's playing a little kid. I mean, how old do you think she's 8 or 7?
Yeah.
And then there's the storyteller that kind of joins them on the journey. She, in my opinion, she's a plank of wood. I mean, she was functionally useless. But
She looks fun to look at. But
Wow. And now we see the real thing. Liam's like, oh, I got plenty of eye candy, but they didn't jiggle it around enough for me.
That didn't even really cross my mind that she was a good looking girl.
buddy, come on, guys. What are we doing here?
And here's the thing, like, I would agree with you that the acting is not like A level.
Of course it's not.
But honestly, I've seen much worse acting.
Yes.
So honestly, for
But
amateur,
why is that? Of course it's not.
Of course it's not, because
$250,000 budgets.
like
There is great actors
no,
everywhere.
no,
There's
no.
great actors at my high school.
Next time
High
you want to
school put
show
on
me
better
a
acting performances.
$250,000 movie with better acting, I will let you.
Liam,
But
My
show me.
high school put
Maybe
on better
Liam just-
acting performances.
maybe Liam just
and
doesn't-
they were students.
maybe he just doesn't quite understand. You realize that most commercials aren't made for that budget. Like commercials that you see on television aren't made with that budget.
I really don't see the correlation there.
Okay,
And
so
I don't.
I think that you're just mistaking the fact that you're like, oh, low budget, but you can still find actors. Actors are the highest part of your budget in a movie,
Right.
like especially like Hollywood actors.
That means they got these people off the streets and gave them like $5
These
a piece.
people-
They got the wrong people off the
like,
streets.
None of
Like-
none of them have IMDb accounts of any kind. Like they are
So
Yeah.
here's the thing,
randoms.
Liam. And I do want to push back on you on this because, I think acting is an important part of a movie, but it's not the only part of a movie.
Sure.
And I honestly think this movie gets away from the acting being an important part
Yeah.
it makes the most of what it has. To Greg's point, really the only three people that have to actually act are the dad, the girl, and the storyteller. And I think 2 out of 3 of those do a good job.
Yeah.
I disagree.
And
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and
I
that's,
do agree. Those are the 3 ones that act the most. Everyone else,
Ink is
I don't really
Ink is
have an issue
the
with.
spoiler alert. Ink
Yeah.
is the dad's actor. So
Yeah, so one and the same.
yeah.
But okay, so that's fine. I mean, I personally understand from being somebody who has thought about making films the idea of like, oh, this wouldn't work because like thinking of an amateur person trying to act this scene that I'm playing in my brain, it just wouldn't work. But I guess where I differ from you is that I think it actually did a good job to say we're going to stay away from big moments like that. And then the few moments that they did have that required tears or a very heightened emotion, I thought they actually did well.
thought they landed.
I thought they kind of landed.
I'll name 2 that I didn't think they did well.
Okay.
And it might be the only 2 that I can remember
that's
of
fine.
emotional beats.
Yeah.
Is the guy in the car when he's freaking out is so cringy. And I think it's just like
Like right at the
they're just
beginning?
playing into a trope that it's like pissed off businessman venting in his car. Didn't connect with me at all.
But that's literally what he is. I didn't.
Yeah, well, I just think he did a poor job, and that was unconvincing performance. And then
Okay.
the other one was in the hospital room with the grandfather. I don't think either of them.
Yeah,
were
I think the
convincing in that
grandfather was a
role.
little.
Yeah,
Yeah, the grandfather
for
kind
me.
of phoned it in
Yeah.
for sure. But
that's 2 of like the 4 or 5 big emotional beats that they were going for. Acting,
I don't know though. Like, but those weren't like the scene where he yelled in the car is a flash of the movie. It's not like him having the conversation with his daughter at the end where he essentially saves his life and saves her life. I think those are the big moments.
If you put a camera in my car after some of my work days, it's a better performance than that.
You keep saying that, and I'm not buying it.
I'm telling you.
Not buying it.
I'm telling you.
Anyways, okay, well, I guess I'll share my thoughts. So, I thought that, again, the movie started out, it's about as indie as it can possibly look. And it's also in 2009, which is like, you just have to take it the idea that like even the cameras that they're probably using are worse than your phone probably now. But it's fine. They do these kind of strange effects in the different worlds. So it's like Dream World. It's like all glowy and foggy.
Is that
And then-
intentional because
Yes,
it's such
yes.
a low
Oh.
budget?
No. I mean,
not because
Like
it's low
the
budget. but-
overexposing.
no. That was intentional to tell you that you're in the dream world.
Yes. So it's like the Incubus world was kind of like green and weird.
Yeah.
And then the Dreamers world was all kind of fuzzy and blown out. And then the real world was clear. So you're watching this movie and like the transitions, the audio mixing, like it's all low budget, which is fine. Like for me, like I'm just going, okay, as long as your movie isn't focusing on those things, like, hey, we're gonna make a really, like, the cinematography isn't gonna be the focus of this movie.
That's what
at
I was
all.
trying to say before. That's like, I'm not going to take off points
Right,
for that
exactly.
kind of stuff.
So you enter in and you see this, and I'm like, okay. So they're introducing this really creative story idea, which I think they do a pretty good job of, and this is difficult to do, to not have somebody sit there and give exposition and say, this is what it's like. We come here and we do this, and they do this, and this is what this object does, and this is what this. They just kind of show you. They're like, hey, you've established pretty early these people. They give you good dreams. Those people, they give you bad dreams. It's very obvious they're bad guys. They look really creepy, and it is really well done. That part is one of I would say maybe the second most impressive thing about the entire movie is the digital effect on the Incubus people, where they have this like square of digital something in front of their face, and it distorts their face slightly, and they're all smiling with big, like, they are creepy looking.
And they
mother
whisper
effers.
everything they say.
Yeah, they're eerie.
It's like warped. It like is like flowing within their mask.
It's a really creepy thing. It's very unsettling. So that was well done. And anyways, so there are all kinds of small things like the way that they travel from, like, they warp to different areas. They like kind of tap on these little drums. Like, you could just tell that they're like, hey, we just need a small object and we'll pretend it's something, like, for the movie. But again, it's not like the movie wasn't sitting there zooming in on these little drums and like, let me explain how it works. It was just like, okay, we need an object to get from point A to point B.
They did a lot of showing over telling. Like, they don't need to explain, like, well, you see, you hit these bongos in this exact rhythm and it's a key to open the portal into the in between. No, he just goes and then he jumps into the place and you're like, oh, okay, so that's how that works.
That part's that's funny though.
And the thing is, like, they do like a little bit of, they don't do a ton of world building, but they do some world building and it's all consistent. And so, like, his bongo gets ripped and he's like smacking it and it won't work, and so that's why he has to go on the journey to get the passcodes.
Yeah, and so I thought that taking all that into account, I will say there is a specific song. It's the rest of the movie music is whatever, but they play this song perpetually throughout the whole movie, especially in big moments. And this is a song that first came out, did my research, in the movie The Gray at the very end of the movie.
Confirmed.
It's just like a piano riff of some kind. Now,
Did The Gray come out first?
This, I believe so. Yes.
That's crazy.
So, from what I understand, sorry, not from what I understand, from what I'm guessing, this song must be really easy to license because it is in. I knew I'd heard it other places. It's in the trailer. It's probably in the movie. So when you watch the trailer for Ink, it's this song plays in it, and you watch the trailer for it. And I remember, like, kind of compelled because it's a great kind of musical medley. If you go and watch trailers for like a couple other indie kind of horror sci-fi, it's the same song. There's one that's called like the Mirrors or something, and is
that the one with
it's got no. It's the same level
with,
of
Donald Sutherland.
No, it's like
Is it not the same director?
It's the same level of indie, so maybe it is the same director. But like, I watched the trailer.
I watched a movie called Mirrors with Donald Sutherland where he's fighting mirror demons.
No, this one, it might have not been called Mirrors, but
sorry, Kiefer Sutherland, not Donald Sutherland.
My point being that this
Jack
song,
Bauer.
I think is passed around quite a bit, but it is a very compelling piece of music, and so it's played at some key moments that, for me, like that can change everything. If that's removed from a few scenes, I think it kind of takes all the heart out of it. So I really liked that, and ultimately for me, it's the story. It's like, it's a really powerful message, and it's done in a creative way that's not obvious, and it had to be executed in a couple big moments with some good enough acting. It's fine. It's not like they were winning, any awards, but they did good enough in moments that are hard to act. If Liam thinks he could have acted those moments, I would love to film him.
Could have.
All right, so I will give you a challenge right now, Liam. I have all the cameras, the audio equipment, the lighting. We can recreate 2 scenes of my choice where you can be the dad, and we will play them side by side on this show, and we'll see if you are. Are you shaking on it?
Sure. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So for the viewers at home, we are gonna do this. We will do this on the finale of season 2, which is coming up. We'll talk about the schedule coming up. We will show the side-by-side comparison of Liam and Nathaniel.
Awesome.
Nathaniel will sit in as the girl. He won't have any lines. He'll just kind of sit there.
I'll be at the part where she's in a coma.
Yes, and you wake up and you're like, and I'm crying. That could be one of them. Yeah.
There is not a chance that you.
This could be my big break. This could be my big break.
There's
Someone's
like zero
gonna-
chance that you don't look like an absolute.
There's going to be an
idiot.
exec that stumbles on this, and he's going to be like, we got to sign this guy up or something. We got to get him in Marvel.
We got to get him in a $250,000 movie.
We got to get him in Marvel.
Anyways, so I thought the message was amazing, and we can kind of get more into that as the show progresses because it's kind of the final part of the whole movie, and yeah, I just thought it was really well done. I think to have a creative idea like this, just to think as a viewer from my standards of being like, okay, I have the capabilities to make movies that look like that. Like I could. Most of the time you're watching Hollywood movies, it's not even the same ballpark as the stuff that I do. But this was. I mean, I was looking around going, yep, could film that. Yep, could film that. There was one part when they bring where Ink is at the very end when he makes it to the high order of the Incubus, whatever. That set was actually really well done. I don't know how they did that. It was like lined with. They looked like you were in like a spaceship or something. It's very interesting and well done considering they had virtually no budget. So that was one part that I don't think I could do. But when I watch a movie like that, I'm thinking, man, if I had a creative idea, which I have plenty of creative ideas, I could actually bring some of them to life, like in this way. I don't. It was inspiring for someone like me, like because I was like, okay, these people had ideas, they were able to bring them to life and communicate their message properly, and it was really just amazing. I mean, it brought a tear to my eye at the end. I mean, it was a well done movie.
I want to state that the messaging being family is more important than work is a message I love.
That's not just the only message, though. There's a much deeper message in there
Yeah.
that she says, like, right, storyteller. We'll dig into it.
Go
But
ahead.
do you not
now
remember
I
what
want
the
to get into
storyteller
it.
says?
Yeah, we can get into it.
Let's get into it.
So
It's hard to imagine a message that's much deeper
all right.
than
So
that.
in order
but
to
yeah.
so in order to really dig into the movie, we're gonna have to spoil it.
Yeah.
And it's not like it is a spoiler, but it's not like
The
you
movie
can
should
figure it out.
still be enjoyable
Yeah,
if
it's
you
still
know
good.
this.
I still enjoyed it, and I knew what the ending was.
We've
right?
never been a non-spoiler podcast,
yeah.
to be fair.
So-
Granted, this is 2009. So
Yeah, but in order to actually like talk about the movie, you have to understand the spoilers. So the movie opens with this dad getting in a car after a business meeting and driving, and he gets into an accident, and that's kind of starts off the whole movie. Well, you find out that in the dream world, time flows differently. So the girl, Emma, and Ink end up getting accompanied by this woman called the Storyteller. You don't actually ever know her name, but she's called the Storyteller, and she's fighting Ink, and then Ink threatens Ink. We find out Ink's planted a bomb or something on the girl, and is like, "I'm gonna blow her up." And so the Storyteller surrenders and says, "Take me prisoner too." And then as they're traveling, she's like encouraging Emma and teaching Emma to be courageous, even though she's scared. And also like talking to Ink and saying, I know how you got your scars, because he's like, oh, Ink, you have scars on your head because you committed suicide by shooting yourself. Why do you really think being an incubus is going to be good? Like, and kind of connecting with, like trying to connect with him and showing compassion to him. And Ink is like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, what's your game? What are you playing at? And then almost at the end of the movie, and what's really interesting is it does start affecting Ink. You do know it starts affecting Ink because they end up, so his bongos break. He's trying to get to the he's trying to take the girl to the Incubus assembly. He's like in this hall of mirrors where there's like all these different entrances, and he's trying to get to the Incubus assembly, but the bongos he needs to get there are broken because he got in a fight with when he was stealing the girl. He got in a fight with the other storytellers. And so he goes to this other incubus and says, "Hey, I need the codes to get to the incubus assembly because mine are broken."
Well, sorry, just a brief. I think isn't he's technically what they call a drifter.
Yeah,
he hasn't picked, and he went to
he's
another
not
drifter.
an incubus.
Correct?
No. The first thing he does is he goes to another incubus.
Okay, it was an incubus. Okay.
Yeah, and the incubus says the code is separate. You'll have to go pick it up from these drifters.
Okay.
And so then he goes and visits the two drifters, the guy and
Okay.
the girl, the junk guy and the diva girl.
Code to what though? I don't know if that
It's
ever
like
clicked with me.
to where their assembly hall is.
It's basically it's
like
like a
map?
key. It's
Like a key to get to the
a
yeah,
map,
like
okay.
a key to
Yeah.
open because the
Makes sense.
bongos have the bongos he was using like
They have a pattern.
yeah it was like,
Okay,
it was-
sure.
it was something like
Not
that.
really that important. Just a vehicle
Yeah.
to get them.
Yeah,
get him
they
to the
just imply
assembly.
like he can't get there without this code.
Sure.
And so he goes to this first drifter, and it's this dude in the junkyard, and the dude's like, all this stuff is mine. Like I own all this stuff. And then he wants the storyteller, and and Incubus won't give him the storyteller, or Ink, not Incubus. Ink won't give him the storyteller, and then he goes to the diva's house to get the second part of the key, and the diva's like, no one should be prettier than me.
I want to chop her hair.
I want to chop her hair off, and so she starts cutting the storyteller's hair, and then Ink stops her, and so Ink is clearly unwilling to give the storyteller up, but also like, in a very small way, showing a little bit of compassion towards her, even before the end of the film.
And I'll even say that those moments, before you even get to the big, the thing that we're going to be talking about mostly, even those moments are powerful in that I think most movies fail to do that. Like, they fail to build a connection between characters the way they were showing it there, where, like, that's such a simple thing to have your hair chopped off, right? She's not killing this person, and Ink couldn't bring himself to kill the storyteller, this girl that's volunteering to follow him around and be his prisoner. But once he sees her willingly say, "That's fine, she can chop my hair off," and seeing her kind of tear up while this nasty woman's chopping off all of her hair, it's affecting him. And there's no narrator is coming out and announcing this to you.
Yeah, and that's one thing
you're just seeing the effects on them, and like that's good storytelling, and it's good acting.
One thing I really like about the movie is it does so much showing over telling.
No,
it only gives you like the exposition in like just the little bits that you need to put the pieces together. And it would have been so easy, especially for a film like this, to just have like a narrator be like, and that's because blah, 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 blah,
Right.
and it would have been tedious. It would have been a miserable movie if it had just been exposition dump. And also, again, the actors aren't stellar.
Right.
So if you give them opportunities to just monologue a bunch, then it's not going to be good. So, I think they limited the dialogue. It's a fairly dialogue sparse movie. There's not a lot of talking in it.
Like we both. I mean, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying that any of these actors are great. They're probably not even. They're probably not even good actors.
If I had to name like two weaknesses of this movie, ignoring the budgetary constraints and all those things, I would say one is the acting.
Yes.
Like the acting's not top notch.
Yeah.
Like if it had amazing actors, I think this could have been like
Phenomenal.
a masterpiece movie.
Did you guys like the Pathfinder?
So I'll get to him.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I liked him in the story.
I like him in theory.
Yes.
Okay.
If he was a
You
written
like what he
character
represents.
and I was reading it, I would.
Yeah, so
would very
I
much
think
like his
I
character.
think one of the reasons that he comes off as kind of obnoxious is because everyone else's acting is very subdued, and then he just comes up and he's like screaming, and it's like Charlie Day wandered into the set of the Silence of the
Charlie Day,
Lambs, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so it seems very out of place, but if you understand his character, it makes a lot of sense. And I think either of the other actors needed to tone it up or he needed to tone it down because I think that's one of the reasons it seems so garish.
Yeah.
It's because it mismatches with the other actors so much.
Totally.
And I totally understand. Even me watching it, his first thing when he's like, I'm like, oh yeah, this guy. But again, it doesn't bother me from the standpoint of enjoying the movie as a whole.
And
I'm not a huge fan of the way he acted it,
and just
in
to,
that part. But I think some parts work. I think a lot of parts are like a little too much.
and just to bring the audience up, so once the girl gets taken, it's now the mission of these good storytellers to try to find her Ink and grab her soul and basically get it back to her body. It's kind of their mission. So they're like going through this dream world trying to find Ink, and they need help. And so they're kind of interacting with, I guess he's God supposed to be, where they're like, oh, he's gonna send us help.
Yeah. So they find this guy called the Pathfinder, and they explain that a Pathfinder is someone who.
But wait, don't they say he sent us a Pathfinder? Isn't that how they phrased it?
Who would he be? You're saying
That's
he
what
is
I'm
like
saying.
a higher power.
Maybe. I don't remember that part.
Like whoever, like he's not that this higher power or God in the story plays any role in the movie as far as an actual character, but there are a couple times that they refer to like getting help from somebody, or he sent us the Pathfinder to help us do these things. Anyways,
Yeah,
so
so
he's sent or whatever,
Yeah.
but there's a character that shows up.
Yeah.
He's blind, but he can hear really well, and basically his whole thing is that he can hear the beat of the world.
Yeah, so he's
Oy,
wacky.
oy, oy.
Yeah, so
Eye roll, man.
He's wacky and kind of out there, but it makes sense.
Louise.
It makes sense if you think about what he is. He's blind, but he understands how all the pieces of the world fit together, how the stories are flowing, and his whole point is his whole thing is he can interrupt someone's story.
Right.
That's
He
the
can-
pretentious part of it, by the way. That's like
so?
that's like one
But
of
that's
the
way more
but the
tangible and
pretentious
fun
thing.
than
But
a
no,
lot
but
of
the- but
pretentious
it
things
ties
out
into the
there.
whole point of the-
has to stop the flow.
But that's the whole point of the story when we get to the ending. Okay, we're going to come back to that.
Yeah.
'Cause it doesn't make sense.
I want to
until
get to
you
the message also. Yeah.
So anyways, they recruit this guy, the Pathfinder, and he's just kind of wacky, blind guy. Some of his jokes land, some of them don't. He's just kind of a little bombastic, a little over the top. But anyways, they decide they need to go and try to get the dad to meet the daughter. So they end up going to the city, and meanwhile, Ink again ends up taking her all the way to the incubus chamber, and you find out later that the dad is being tracked by, like, there are incubus around, incubi around, like, following him.
Yeah.
The
like,
dad in the real world is being followed in the dream world by incubus. Yeah.
And they're like, that's kind of weird because it's daylight, and usually the incubi don't show up during the day. But so it's kind of two things going on at one time. And so one of the things that happens is, in the real world, they're all standing in this big kind of like city square where the dad is getting in his car, getting ready to drive. And this is, I thought one of the coolest scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Where they're like, we can't interact with the real world. And the Pathfinder is like, all you need to do is change one beat to stop the flow, and that'll change the story. And so he starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see, as all the storytellers are looking around, you see that the things people are doing are going to the beat of him counting. And then it ends up being this, like, kind of Rube Goldberg domino effect where this one person is there's this guy.
It's a kid handing a homeless person a bill,
a dollar, and the dollar blows out of his hand. And
well, he theoretically, the Pathfinder kind of like starts that. He
starts
blows
that.
the bill out of his hand, and that leads to
this
huge
chain reaction that ends up causing the crash from the beginning of the movie. So the dad ends up going to the hospital, and ends up in the same hospital that his daughter's at. So he goes and visits his daughter's room. Now he is like slowly kind of, he's dazed, he's kind of still wounded. He's kind of stumbling around, and you see that a bunch of incubi just show up at the hospital. And so the storytellers are like trying to fight off the incubi to give the dad time. Not that the dad realizes this, but to give the dad time to get into the
because the idea from the storytellers is that they need to get in real life, they need to get the dad to the body of the girl, and that'll kick her out of like this thing, because the dad has removed himself from her life, has said, hey, I found out that she's in a coma, but I'm like, it's
his business deal is more important.
Yeah, his business deal is more important, and he's just turned into this really gross business guy. And so the Pathfinder is like, okay, we need to disrupt his whole rhythm, because these incubi are just swarming him. Like, he is so corrupted by all their bad thoughts and dreams that, I need to kind of jar him out of that. And so he gets into the car accident, and now he wakes up in the hospital, right next to her. And their kind of whole thing is, let's give him a chance. Like, we've got him here close now. Now these incubi are closing in. We need to fight them off until he can, hopefully make that decision to be a good dad and go and see his daughter.
Well, they also influence him before that in in the ambulance,
right?
Like when he's like asleep or in a coma or whatever.
They're nudging him towards it.
They're like putting their hand on his head and like
because he's in a coma, so now they can interact with him with the idea.
Correct.
So it was all part of their plan.
So it's like subliminal. He wakes up and he's like feels these like positive emotions towards his.
Meanwhile,
daughter.
Ink gets to the assembly of incubi, and there's one incubi who's their leader. Do they name him? I don't think they name him.
They named him Gay.
Fuck they named him fuck ass. Dude, that guy's crazy.
That guy. No, excuse me.
That guy should be on a list
That's
somewhere.
Mr. Fuck ass.
That guy needs to be watched.
He was a creepy looking guy.
There's something about his smile.
There was something
so
about that
He's the
guy.
only incubus who doesn't have the mask thing. So presumably he's the leader.
Yeah.
Again, if we're looking at it like
his name in IMDb is the Prince.
The Prince.
So,
Is that right?
I honestly think there's a lot of Christian symbolism.
That's what I was just gonna say. Prince of Darkness. Like, is that
there's
like the theme
lot
there?
of Christian symbolism.
It's
in this movie.
good versus evil.
And then the storyteller gets stabbed. Like he walks up and stabs the storyteller and kills the storyteller. Like stabs her fatally.
Right.
And then picks up the girl and puts her in this bathtub and is like gonna sacrifice her.
It's dark. Yeah.
And Ink is like, storyteller, why are you here?
Why did you do this?
Why would you come with me? I'm too far gone. Like you can't save me. And this is where the storyteller says something really profound. Says, I'm not saving the, it's not about who you are. It's about who you were meant to be. And she says, you need to remember her. And he has a flashback, and it turns out that Ink is the dad. And it's the dad if the dad doesn't get in that accident and just goes to his meeting and then the girl dies in a coma, and then as a result of that, he spirals and ends up killing himself because time doesn't work the same way in the dream realm. So Ink is the dad if he takes the bad future, and that's the flow that they were disrupting, was not letting him go to that meeting and getting him to go to the hospital to meet his daughter instead.
But isn't the root of that his priorities were out of whack?
Yes.
Like he was blowing off his daughter being in the hospital to pursue this worldly goal.
But it's more than that. It's
yeah,
more than
I mean, he's clearly become like, it's not just his choice just to be like, like I should care about my daughter. So there's plenty of there's all these times that the incubus are kind of jabbing at him, and he's having these flashbacks of when he was a kid, and he came from nothing. He has all this. It's like these little flashes of like students making fun of him, of being like, man, did you come from trash, or like a whole history of trash?
His
and they're all laughing.
mother using food stamps.
And so you can tell the pressures that he's facing now is like he's trying to change his identity and say, okay, no, like I'm still trying to please these people, which I thought the coolest thing of the movie was that at the end, it's like they're happening parallel at the same time. Like he's going to the incubus to sacrifice his daughter. Well, in real life, the incubus are represented by his company and like the corporation that he's with, and he's like, I can either sacrifice my daughter and leave her there and keep pleasing these people that don't matter, that don't want the best for me, that are at the root, kind of they're representing something evil here, which is like the love of the world, or I can give that up and be a father to my daughter. And in the other world, it's represented with him laying the daughter before all the incubus or saving her. So he's kind of like, he still wants to please, like he's still looking at the wrong person to please is kind of his problem, even in the afterlife, right? So let's follow the first timeline. He's terrible. His wife dies. He goes into a spiral. His daughter gets taken from him. He lets his daughter die without even visiting her. He keeps going up and up in this corporation until he shoots himself. And then now he's in the afterlife, and he still has that mentality of, now I've got to please the people around me here. So now I've got to look at these incubus, and I got to say, okay, well, since I'm so grotesque and ugly, I've got to go and become one of them. Like I'm so far gone.
And
at
the
this
incubus
point.
says something like that, and I can't remember the exact line, but he says, "You'll become one of us, and like greed and pride are our glory," or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like all the horrible things that you loathe in yourself, those are going to become your power.
With all due respect, his nose is not fitting behind that glass, though.
I don't know. It's like several inches.
The nose is way more than several inches.
It was a hell of a schnoz.
It's a big nose, but I think the prosthetics were actually pretty
it's
solid.
pretty solid.
Like I thought that
prosthetics.
work was the fact that was somebody that they hired for a certain amount of money, and not like a Hollywood gigantic crew that they paid millions of dollars to do like professional grade prosthetics. That's really impressive. It looked just like a creature.
Within the budget, the visuals are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, they're great.
I think it's kind of offensive to people with big noses.
It's not.
What
just,
are you saying about them?
It's not just
what
like.
Are we saying
it's
about
not
them?
okay. So when you watch this movie, it's not just like his nose grew a little bit. It's like almost the size of his head. Like it's this big. He looks like a monster now.
He looks like
And
Pinocchio.
He grew like warts,
Yeah.
and he looks like a beast. Like his hood gets taken off a couple times, and he's quick to throw it back on, and he's really ashamed. But that's another cool piece of imagery that how he was acting in life is now represented. Like his spiritual self was that ugly. It's like now we get a chance to look at what you are underneath the suit, all the success. This is what you've been becoming. You've been turning into this by all these horrible decisions you're making, which is what the storyteller tells him at the end. Which is I'm looking at the person that you could be, not the person that you've become by going down this path. And that's what you get to see as the viewer,
and not even the person that you could be. That's to me. That's the big thing. It's not the person that you could be. It's just like you're at a point. You could go this way, and keep going on what you're doing, or you could make a change and do something different. And it's like you're not the way you're supposed to be. Right. And that's, to me, that's what makes it such a Christian message, is because the Christian message is not, hey, you just need to make a change. And the Christian message is, hey, you live in a disordered world and you are disordered.
Yeah.
And it takes an external influence to set you on the path to being reordered again.
Yeah.
And that's what the Pathfinder does. It's like if Pathfinder doesn't intervene, then he goes down that path. It takes an external influence to actually set you off of the disordered path, to reset everything back into order.
And an external person to the point of them self-sacrificing like she did. Like that's what it took. Like it took a little bit at first to kind of edge in, but eventually it took her whole life. And she said it's worth it. Like she said, I'm exactly where I want to be several times. She's like, I'm where I want to be, and you're in control here. She kept saying it. You're in control, and he was so frustrated because he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You could leave. You're a good warrior. Like I know you because you're a really powerful warrior." And this is where, and this might be the biggest question to discuss. Is she the daughter?
That's what I was just going to ask is what was her big why? Because I get she's doing something positive.
I'm pretty sure.
Is it just end at that she's just being a good person? Or is there a greater purpose for what she's doing? Why her?
So again, I know if you're just listening, you haven't seen the movie, you're probably like trying to this seems like nonsense, but just to try to make it a little more linear for you. So they've established that in this dream world, time doesn't work the same way. So obviously Ink, the main kind of bad character with the nose that steals the girl and is running off to sacrifice her, he actually ends up being the dad that he stole the girl from, but just in a different timeline. Mm-hmm. So the girl that followed, like we'll call her a grown woman, that follows that guy, that follows Ink around, that she ends up kind of tussling with him, but at the end says, "Hey, just take me, I'm your prisoner." And he's kind of confused because he's like, "You're a pretty good warrior, and now you just kind of gave up. I'm wondering why you stay here. Like you could get out of here anytime."
Let me Google it. I don't know if enough people have seen this movie to give me an answer.
I definitely don't think. I feel like it might not even be out there. But the idea is that if that's Ink, if like when the dad shot himself, he came into the dream world and became Ink. That he shot himself after she died in his timeline. So she could have already been there, becoming a storyteller. And there are mirrors of like the little girl is super imaginative. There's an opening scene. Oh man, and this is another really cool piece of imagery. There's an opening scene where she's wanting to play an imaginary game with her dad, and her dad's just tired because like I don't know, he's like, "I worked a 80-hour week. What did you do?" He's just kind of being a bad dad. And she's like, "Oh no, Dad, there's monsters all around." And it's a really cute moment. And then eventually you see him give in and he kind of jumps into the imaginary game with her. And then that is like mirrored to like the last fight where she's in trouble, and he eventually like takes up like his weapons and starts fighting off all these incubus, and he kills all of them, saves her. So you kind of tell that the little girl is a storyteller. She's playing with her toys when she's supposed to be going to bed. She's like making up games. So the idea that she could have died and become that storyteller who's now following Ink around, I'm pretty positive
it would make sense.
It looks like from what I'm getting around, and now it doesn't seem like there's a definitive answer, but it seems like a bunch of people have like the same idea. Like, is her name? Emma. Or is she supposed to be Emma?
It would make sense.
Yeah.
It would make sense.
So I thought that's the why, because she's sitting there like she loves her dad regardless, and she obviously wants him to realize his mistakes, so that ultimately, even though it's probably too late for Ink because he's this distorted creature already in the afterlife and he's a drifter, and it's obviously too late for her.
It says, or maybe the mom.
Yeah, and that's what I said when I was watching, but so like Ink is still played by the same actor.
Yeah.
And I think, and it's definitely not the same actress as the mom, because you see the mom several times. Yeah. That's what made me think that it wasn't her. If they had not showed the mom the whole time in flashbacks, and then she would have just kind of admitted it at the end or something, or you could have just like maybe assumed it was her. But because they showed her several times in the flashbacks, I don't think it was her. But I think that one of the cool. Oh, not one of the cool, but like the most impressive part is that moment at the end when I think it's such a relatable message to have a character who is ugly, and in this case visually ugly, and he's making terrible decisions in the real world. Now he's making terrible decisions in this dream world that he's kind of been sent to.
And the thing is, like, you understand why he's making his decision. And again, it's this is what Hollywood sometimes doesn't understand, is making a sympathetic villain doesn't mean you justify what they're doing. It means you understand why they're doing it, because you say, okay, if I made bad decisions, I could see myself making that decision as well.
Of course.
And it's not saying like, oh no, they were right to make that decision. That's where Hollywood is getting it completely wrong, where they're like, oh no, see, they were justified. Like, no, they're not justified in their actions, but you understand why they would take those actions, and you feel bad for them. You feel like maybe if someone had reached out earlier, maybe there could have been a different way. Like, it could have gone differently if circumstances had been different, if someone had reached out. Like, they're still responsible.
Right.
but you feel the tragedy of their decision more.
Yeah,
That's what a good sympathetic villain is. And you understand, like, he wants to be part of the incubi because, again, the incubus are like these personifications of greed and pride and just vileness. And he's saying, well, if I'm already this vile thing, this drifting vile thing, and I've got nothing going on for me, I can't even look at myself. Right? I don't want other people to look at me. Then I might as well go all the way and become this thing. That way, at least, I can live with being that. Or that's his thought process is, if I become an incubus, then I'll finally have something. I'll finally be something, not just this hideous drifter, wallowing in my shame and my grief, which I don't even know because I've forgotten it. Right? So, like, you really feel for him. And that's why when the storyteller starts to break through the shell, it makes sense why he's willing to, like, why he can go on a redemption arc.
Well, and then the most powerful moment, and it's like, man, it's hard to even think about and not, like, tear up, but it's like the girl walks to him after he's made his decision that he's like, I'm going to save her. So Ink is amongst all the incubi, and he kills them all.
Whoops the ass.
And he kind of falls to his knees, and this little girl who's been taunted or, like, yanked around by this creature, this horrible, like, that means she's scared, and she's she walks up to him and she looks at him and she's like, Dad?
And she, like, gently strokes his head.
And he's like, he just said, what he says, like, forgive me.
Yeah.
And she hugs him. And it's like, it's like, how can anybody watching not relate
Liam.
relate to the message? No, that's fine.
Daughter's great.
That's fine. But, like,
Daughter is awesome.
How can you not relate to the message of feeling like you've just failed and now all of your failures are laid bare? Like, there's no hiding it. There's no more, even your motives behind the things that you've done. It's just there, and you just know, like, at this point, like, you have two choices, right? And he did, and he was just going to go, let me just go deeper into this. If you all know, nobody's going to like me anyways. I'm so gross. I'm hideous. And then to have his daughter, right, somebody who is, imagery-wise is this pure character, to come up and say, well, you're the only person I want to be with. And then that's what, like, it's just amazing. Like I feel like if you haven't had those experiences in life where you have felt loved undeservedly, maybe you don't connect as much, but I mean, I definitely have, and that's why
I think we all feel that way because of our faith.
Yeah, and again, that's why I'm like, I wonder if there was some, like, if this was, like, overtly Christian.
it really did feel
Like,
like
some of it
I
really
didn't pick
feels
up on
like
anything when I was, like, looking through, like, reviews and, like, all, like,
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, but,
There's
like, the
nothing
redemptive
there,
story
but-
arc feels like, and again, and I mean, it's what Tolkien talked about, where it was like, when you tell a story about redemption, it's always going to seem like it came straight out of the Bible because that's the true story of redemption.
That's truth. Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
They do, and this is, one of the reasons I was like, I wonder if the storyteller, the main storyteller, apparently she has a name. Apparently her name is Lieve, Liev.
Didn't know that.
I don't think it's spoken in the movie. I don't think it's mentioned in the movie. But so I wonder if she's supposed to be like a Christ figure.
I mean, she definitely
Because she is this great warrior, and she could absolutely overcome Ink.
Right.
But she chooses not to, and then eventually ends up sacrificing herself for Ink. And then I don't know if 3 days later she comes back to life.
That's the sequel.
Ink
Yeah.
2.
The sequel.
the sequel didn't really get off the ground. It was
Yeah.
really rough.
They only had $25,000 for that one. But she says, when she's explaining how time works, like at the end, she's like, remember how time works. Like,
Yeah, she quotes scripture.
she quotes scripture. She says, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. And it may be that was just they were like, oh, how can we explain how time is wonky in the dream world? Oh, here's this quote from scripture, right? And maybe they didn't even think about that. Maybe they're just like, oh, here's something I've heard.
Yeah.
So there's no, I don't have anything. Again, there's not a lot of stuff out there because it doesn't seem like there was a lot of press for this movie either. Again, it was an indie movie.
It did get some, like, underground buzz, though.
Yeah.
It's like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, because it's very good,
Suck
and
it,
you're an
Liam.
ass.
I'm going to get on Rotten Tomatoes and destroy that 100% score. The perfect score that it had.
They're like, wait a minute, who's this asshat? that
Again,
came
it's
in
like
here?
if you were going in like, oh, this had $180 million budget, cough cough, The Acolyte, you'd be like, man, they really could have done better.
Oh, yeah.
But with the $250,000, you're like, I can't believe they were able to do as much as they did to create something
if they
as
had more
good.
money.
Maybe if they could have hired, name brand actors.
Well, I think that's
But
what.
honestly,
If Matt Damon was
I
in
think
it, I think I really
I
would've
think
enjoyed
I
it.
think the jankiness is a little bit. There's a little bit of a charm in the jankiness. It feels like, and intentionally so, it feels like a bedtime story,
Yeah.
right? It feels like something you could tell to your kids. I mean, obviously,
You wouldn't
maybe
show
tone
it to
down the
them 'cause
creepiness
the
and use it.
incubi.
It is
Yeah, drop the
scary,
F-bombs,
let me
but you
tell
could be
you.
like, well, there's scary creatures that give you bad dreams, and then tell a story of how a dad and a daughter were reunited, right? It feels like a bedtime story, and there's an ethereal quality to it, intentionally so, because of the whole dream world aspect of it, that I think just, I don't know, I think all the major important things just work and resonate really well. And, again, the acting is not top notch. I would grade it at mostly a B and some of it a C. I wouldn't give it an F because I've seen worse acting.
Well, the thing is, and we've both made this point. There's just not a whole lot that's being asked of the actors.
Yeah,
there's very little
exactly,
dialogue,
which I think was actually really.
and a lot of it.
I think
is-
that's one of the strong points of the movie. It's
really
it does,
that's
it does
smart.
such a good job with what it
Super smart
has.
to do. It's a really smart move to make. When again, all three of us can agree, none of these are good actors. None of them
Except for
had
the girl.
futures. I doubt the girl even had a future.
She didn't, unfortunately.
She died immediately after the
She would
film.
have been good. She would have been good.
But my point being, yes, I'm one of those who, like, I looked at this movie and I was like, if this guy who had this idea, wanted to execute it this way, had $1 million and could just fill everything with amazing actors. And again, I'm not even that sad about how the way the movie looked, even though the cinematography is bad, because the effects on all the incubi were so unsettling, and the fact that it was kind of lower budget filming was fine. It worked for me. But if it could, I think this would have just been an absolutely incredible movie. And the thing is, when you can communicate a message like they communicated in a way that's not so just abruptly obvious. If this was just a story about, if this was just the non-dream world part of the story, if that was the whole thing, I would have thought this is a very just surface level. There's a guy, he loves his daughter, but he can't see it because his wife dies, and now he's pushing away from her, and he's getting into drugs, and he's getting into success, and he's got to make this final decision after he gets in a car accident to go and see her, and she forgives him. I'd be like, well, that's a fine message, but it's not told very creatively. But they went through the lengths of telling this whole creative side, introduce this whole other universe that, again, is janky and a little weird. There's a lot of things that are kind of like, that are hard to explain. Like they click certain buttons and then a lot of them appear like for the storytellers, and I'm not really sure why that happened at the end. I'm not even sure what keeping the incubi away would have done
like
to
the different gadgets they were
Yeah.
wielding around.
So again, it's a little weird, but all of that was to tell this message. Like the whole purpose of all of that, of all the weird looks, of all the weird makeup, of all the silly acting, of all the crazy creatures, was to tell the message about this guy
So we do
and
kind
his
of
redemption
know.
arc.
We do kind of know what the incubi do to people, because when he's having his flashbacks, right, he's like sitting there, and then he's like looking all happy, and then he'll be like, "Rah," right, and it gives it a green filter. That indicates that that's like the incubi's influence.
I guess
of him.
But what I'm wondering is
in the hospital, like, what are they going to do? Like, maybe they're going to somehow, try use their power to try to, like, those voices in his head to get him to walk away and leave his daughter, like, to try to get to the meeting. And it's unclear. But here's the thing: you understand that the stakes are there, that they're trying to stop him from getting to the hospital room, and they're trying to make sure that storyteller's trying to. So even though you're like, wait, they can't interact with the real world? How are they going to do it? Doesn't actually matter in the moment. And that's what I think is the most brilliant part of this movie, is there's no part of the movie where you're like, okay, I don't understand what's supposed to be happening. I don't understand how these things are working, because it shows you exactly what you need for your brain to say, I understand what the stakes are, and I understand what's happening.
Right. And
even with the weird time travel.
And there are plenty of like rooms for your like there are avenues of the story that you're like, hey, that hasn't been explained yet, and then it gets explained, or there's some that may not even have been explained very well at all. But none of them are central to like the driving force of the movie, which is like, girl is taken, they're trying to get her back. Okay, some of the stuff is wonky, but I'm following that part.
Yeah, and you understand, and even like the weird beacon thing, they're like, we're going to need backup. We might need some, we might need some backup. So that's why they put that beacon there. And so you don't like, how does it work? It calls the storyteller. Like you find out, like, they hit it and it calls all of the storytellers.
Right.
But they don't explain that. But you understand, like, oh, this is our backup plan. This is our option of last resort. So,
I think I would have liked a more streamlined approach. Like, I think what you're saying, you appreciated about it. is exactly what I didn't like about it.
Really?
Yeah.
But
I would have been more
So
okay with the
Liam
Streamlined
needed a
version.
narrator.
I would have been more okay with like. You guys ever see Kramer vs. Kramer? This is not. It's somewhat similar, but it's not that similar. But Kramer vs. Kramer is another movie I watched recently. That was like the mom gets taken away, and the dad has to take care of the daughter or the son, and like has to prioritize the son over work. It's a similar through line that I found. Loved it way more. Just streamlined. Like I guess I'm not a sci-fi guy either because I think the Star Wars movies suck.
Well,
And
the
I
new
think-
ones do. What about the original? You think the original trilogy sucks?
I didn't like any. I don't like Star Wars.
Okay, well, why is he on the podcast
yeah,
again?
I don't, like he
I don't
doesn't
like
like.
any
Can we
Star
just
Wars
take him
movies.
out back and shoot him?
So
like,
I think there's a sci-fi like bias in my mind.
I hope
where
ink
as soon as it
comes and
gets
steals
goofy, I
you.
can't really fight through it.
Do you like the Matrix movies?
No, not really.
what is wrong with this man?
I acknowledge that the first movie's a classic. I mean, the Matrix movies, plural, no, absolutely not. After one,
What?
it's abysmal. But one is like a classic, so I get it. I get it. The original Star Wars movies, I get it.
But let's be real. You don't like the original Matrix.
I don't dislike it. I would never like. I'm not. I've watched it once.
was
in my
about
life,
to
and I'm
say-
not going to watch it again. Like I've watched it once in my life. I probably will never watch it again.
I just don't understand
I
your
think
taste in
I have.
movies.
It's just hit me now, and I've started to understand
Sci-fi.
Liam a little bit more. So
Sports and Korean people getting the snot kicked out of them.
drama, thriller, sci-fi. Kick it out. Top 50 movies all time.
What about
There's probably
fantasy?
Zero sci-fi in there.
What about fantasy?
Is that Lord of the Rings? Would you count Lord of the
Lord
Rings?
of the Rings.
Then Lord of the Rings
Like
is
medieval
Lord of
stuff.
the Rings is just different. So yes, of course.
If you did like Lord of the Rings, we would actually.
no, yeah,
remove
Lord of
you
the
from
Rings
podcast.
Lord of the Rings is in a tier of its own. But
greatest
generally,
movies ever made.
yeah,
Is the
I'm
tier
fine
right
with
there,
that.
yeah.
Generally, as soon as it gets goofy like this, man,
What
I'm
about Harry?
checked
You like
out.
the Harry Potter movies though?
Yeah, but I grew up
fantasy.
around that though. I read the books and stuff like that. That's like a sentimental.
I think I know
thing.
what's happening. Liam just doesn't have an imagination. That's really sad. Liam.
I don't. I'm an analytical brain. You guys know this.
I'm pretty analytical too,
you
but
guys know this. It doesn't compute with me. I'm
So
telling
how
you.
come when I said I'm
He's
the
a
creative one, you
robot.
guys wanted to slaughter me, and both of you guys over here like we're analytical people? I'm like I'm creative.
I'm both. See,
Yeah, no,
I-
it's not me.
Nathaniel does have a touch of both for sure, and I think to be honest, it's pretty accurate. I do think that Liam is more of an analytical guy.
Yeah.
so robot, human, android.
The best, the perfect,
The best of both worlds.
us. Yeah.
So okay, so if you were to look at this movie, and I will ask Liam to confine his response because our it might be a little more interesting for us to do it. But what is something that you think could have been done better? Something you could have fixed? Something you just didn't like in the movie, Nathaniel?
So if I want to talk about again the acting from I think the storyteller's acting.
Let's say acting
I
isn't
didn't understand what her like. I don't know. Her emotional state kind of confused me. I get it more actually watching it this third time. I think it gelled with me a little bit more.
okay.
But really, so the acting is obviously one of the major flaws. But I think one of the other major flaws is what I would call some of the insubstantiality of some. Like it's not a long movie,
Right.
but I honestly think there's some parts that plot a little bit that they could have like it could have been like 15 minutes shorter and just been really tight. And I think that would have been like a really big strength for it to just be like a super tightly written.
That's a good point.
Just super well paced. So I think the pacing has some minor, like not huge issues. I think there's some minor issues where you could have just truncated a few parts. Because honestly, like a lot of the middle stuff, especially a lot of the stuff where the Pathfinder and the storytellers are just kind of walking around,
Yeah.
doesn't really do anything.
Right.
So I think they could have truncated that a lot because what sticks out to me, the moments that stick out to me are the opening where they're not necessarily the car part, but the part where all the storytellers show up and give good dreams and the incubi show up and give bad dreams. I think that's so crucial and then Ink stealing the girl.
Sure.
Right. And then the next thing that really sticks out for me is the Pathfinder actually causing the accident.
Right.
And so in between that,
Yeah. There's a lot.
there's a lot of walking and not a lot of talking. This is the thing; it's very dialogue light.
Yeah.
So I think you could have fast forwarded a lot of the fluff there, and it cut out like 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, and just made like kind of a tighter package. And I think it would have just flowed a little better for me.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest.
I'll second that, and I'll say you guys might disagree with me, but like the chunk where they meet the two drifters, I think just toss it.
I
just get rid of it.
I actually
don't
completely
get it.
disagree with that because I think
Yeah.
that's
I
crucial.
know you guys were going to, but
I think the
get
so
it.
I think
See you
I
later.
think those interactions with the drifters are crucial for Ink's development.
Yeah, you're starting to
Sure,
see,
they could have done that differently, though. I think
Maybe.
I mean,
but the
it's
point
so
is like
irrelevant.
they're like he is. They're these
Yeah.
weird broken people who came into this dream world but didn't find a role as a storyteller. And
an
you can
incubus.
see or incubus, but you would hope that they don't. They're just kind of like doing nothing, and they become this kind of ball of obsession. And you get it kind of shows you like what is Ink like. Ink's not the only one. There are others, and he's like them. And obviously they work with the incubi because they gave him the code. But then also it's this opportunity for Ink to not give up the storyteller. And Ink justifies it as like, well, she's too valuable for you to have at first. But then with the haircutting thing, he just gets angry at the crazy woman and just says that's enough.
Well, I think it also sheds some light on what exactly the drifters are, because so this woman, let's just take her as an example, right? Like so you run into one drifter who's a woman who's just like, she's obsessed with herself, looking at herself in the mirror. She's not an attractive lady. She's like, she got busted teeth, and she's like putting on a wig, and she looks like way too much makeup.
She thinks she's the most attractive.
Yeah.
Doesn't she
Yeah.
say that?
And I think the idea,
Well,
Nobody's prettier
she's like
than me.
acutely so it's like the drifters are complete id. They're just overtaken by their personality flaws. So for her it's narcissism. For the first guy it's like hoarding.
and then
or
for
possession.
And for Ink, it becomes, well, all I did with my life was try to please authority and try to basically climb the corporate ladder and please whoever's in power. And so this is what I want to do at all cost. I want to please. I want these incubi to look at me and say, "Job well done." And so I'm going to go to the extent of sacrificing my own daughter. He doesn't even know it's his daughter, but that's the parallel that becomes so cool, is that in real life, he did the same thing. He's like, I want to do everything I can to please the people of this corporate world, that I'm going to kind of in turn let my daughter go and die, and I'm not even going to visit her when she's she's going through a coma. So he's doing the same thing that he's done in real life in this dream world now, and now it's been disrupted, by who we can assume is the daughter grown up after she had died, which is a storyteller girl,
Or just maybe some random person.
Okay, but so you think that they could have just taken out the whole,
And then I know you said keep it confined, but Pathfinder.
dude, the
Again, I think you
Pathfinder's
just
Him, get the guy out of there. Anybody else? I understand that there's a significance in his role, but he was my biggest issue with the whole movie.
I mean, but what about the drift? What about the scene where the Pathfinder like disrupts the beat, and like it's that really kind of interesting scene where like the dollar bill flies
Yeah.
and causes this and causes that and causes this. You didn't think that was interesting?
I mean, I think all the power was taken out by his goofy ass moving around. So yeah,
Yeah, he was. I mean, again,
I honestly
a little
wish
over
that
the
he just
top.
matched tone. Like I think you.
Yeah,
I think you nailed
I think that's
it.
what it is. It is a little jarring that he's just not
Yeah.
in tone with everyone else, which is the point. He's supposed to be kind of a weirdo because he's not a storyteller. He's different. He's
Yeah.
not like them, and I think he just kind of overplays it. Again, not
Yeah.
every time. I think some of the stuff is good, but not. But a little bit of it is just like too much.
Yeah.
It's funny. I actually thought that the I don't know. I did not get that from the Pathfinder at all. I thought that he was the only source of comic relief in the whole movie.
But I didn't need
I know.
at that
I
point
know.
just don't even do comedy.
Yeah. And they probably could have done without his the way he acted. That's true. Like his goofiness. But at least even for me, it wasn't enough to like disrupt, I don't know, my viewing experience.
Yeah,
I
and the other thing is like the storytellers kind of call him out on it. They're like, "Why aren't you taking this seriously?" And he's like, "I am taking this seriously. You don't understand the world the way I do. You can't see what I can see."
Yeah, he's really bizarre. If I had to be nitpicky
And you do because that's what we're doing here.
Yeah. There's plenty to not like about I get it, right? Like we've all talked about the acting. There's some really bad audio, editing and quality. But what I didn't like thematically, because I think that thematically it was strong. So if I'm going to take the strongest point and say maybe I'm not quite sure. Like there's a lot to be said about the storyteller that follows them around, she has a really important role in that she is showing sacrifice for somebody that doesn't deserve it. That message is really powerful and amazing, and it's sacrifice for somebody that doesn't deserve it, which is grace, that ultimately pulls him out of that. So it's just a beautiful thing. So it has to be there. But her encouragement of the girl to become a lion, so much.
Totally.
I think it's
I
just,
thought that was the silliest. I was like, no, please stop it with this.
Yeah,
thing.
that dialogue's a little weird, but the way I'm seeing that is she's terrified.
Yeah,
right? She
the little
doesn't know
girl
what's
is
going
terrified.
on.
Yeah.
And she's just calming her and giving her the courage to. And this is one thing where if I was going to add something, I would add a moment where that actually comes into play, where
Right.
her being courageous actually makes a difference because it doesn't actually matter.
She like roars
Yeah.
at the
She roars at the one guy.
So to bring the audience up, so the storyteller who goes to confront Ink and get the girl from him, she confronts Ink, but then ends up by the end of their tussle says, "Hey, just take me with you. Take me as your prisoner." And this is where Ink starts being confused. But anyways, for the remainder of the movie, he's taking both the little girl and the girl storyteller. So in this time where they're kind of just walking behind Ink in chains, the storyteller girl starts to tell the little girl, "Hey, don't you realize in this world, you're actually a lioness? Like, I can see it now. You're turning into a lioness. Like, you've got a mane and all this, and you can roar." And the little girl is literally like, "The hell are you talking about?"
Yeah,
like,
she looks confused
The
the
only
whole
good,
time.
it just makes it awkward because the girl's interacting how I would. I'm like, what are you saying? Like, you're not making any sense. And I like the idea that she is the purpose of it to be like, hey, I need to be here to encourage her to make sure that she can stay brave in this world that's kind of scary. But it was just so weird. It was such a weird way to do it.
You know,
It didn't land at any point.
now that I'm thinking about it, and again, this might be giving them too much credit.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, the movie doesn't waste a lot of dialogue. So
Yeah.
I think they included that
I really do think there must have
I'm wondering
been a
if the point
purpose.
was to give her the courage to, at the very end, be able to go up to Ink,
Maybe that was
who
it.
was so terrifying to her and was like so cruel to her, to be able to go and to actually face him.
yeah.
Yeah,
and,
but did they?
like,
I think what Greg said. I think they could have handled it in a less strange and
Yeah.
bizarre
Oh, 100%.
way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's even when the first time I watched the movie, I was like, "What the hell is she talking about?"
Just too much. One line would have been like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. It was like 80% of the storyteller's dialogue to the girl was about this
Yeah.
lioness analogy.
I even said it out loud while we were watching. It was like the third time they brought it up. I was like, she needs to just cut it with this lioness thing
Yeah.
because it's not. It's
yeah.
not.
So
hitting whatever they're
that was
trying
the
to do
thing.
is not
That was the
working.
thing for me that was like felt like jarring.
Yeah,
in the
it-
movie was her dialogue,
And,
and I was just like,
the combination of the fact that she just didn't act well. Like she just straight up wasn't a good actor. And
and that's the thing.
none of them really were. But the dad did a good job on his big moments, and the little girl was fine. But other than that, they're all just these kids running around in a short film essentially. And I think she is where the buck stopped.
The thing is, the message at the end, the design of the incubus, just, and honestly, like, you know, the big moments in the movie I think just really work well.
Yeah.
Again, it's like the in between parts, they just don't quite stick. So they had this story, and they had these major moments. And then when they tried to fill the spaces in, that's what, you know, the drawing of the horse, where it's like the full drawing of the horse, and then it's like the cart. Yeah. So I feel like that's where, but you know what? That's not super unexpected. So that's why, you know, I'm willing to forgive a lot more in this movie than I would in other movies. Because first of all, I think it does, that the story is told, which is appropriate for a movie with so many storytellers. The story is told so well with so much showing over telling. It's such a good example of how do you tell a story with minimal dialogue?
Yeah.
How do you show the audience what's going on so that in a way that they understand, even if they don't get everything, but they understand what you're putting down in front of them, without actually having to say, "Hey Liam, did you know that there are storytellers and they give people good dreams, and here are the incubi, they're bad and they give people bad dreams." Okay,
Liam would have liked that, though. That's the problem.
And maybe that would have
that's what
helped.
Liam was waiting for. Liam was waiting for like the Mystery Science 3000 guys to be like, "Oh, I get it, they're giving bad dreams."
It's a great show.
All right, so let's flip it then, and this will be more difficult for me and you, Nathaniel, and maybe Liam only has one of these. But what was the crescendo of the movie to you? What was the highlight of the movie? And we'll start with Liam here.
I'll say the girl after Ink killed all the incubi. Which how is he a Ultimate Warrior.
Okay,
he
well,
killed all of
they
them.
established at the very beginning of the movie that he kicks all of the storytellers' butts.
Well, how did
throws
he
them all
become such a
around.
great fighter?
Again, time works weird, so he's been there for a long time.
He was over the Incubi though. No.
Huh?
So of the Incubi though. No.
Yeah, but
Took
that
them all
part-
out.
Incubi are more,
Took them all
but
out.
Incubi go
Really?
more
This is
through
John
fear.
Wick.
At the very, very beginning of the movie, you're not asking, why is this guy so good at fighting? You're just like, hey, this guy is now good at fighting. I know that part. So it's not like he's
I
not
wanted to
acting.
see some training montages. I think
Oh, my God.
personally, but that sticks out as far as him laying down there.
They
on his
established
knees,
that
and then
earlier
the
when he
girl.
kidnaps the girl that he's a good fighter.
Okay, and then the girl go.
What do you mean? Okay,
the girl
kicks their
going
asses.
up. The girl. I mean, most of the scenes with the girl, I really liked. I thought she was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about you, Nathaniel? What was your, say, top moment of the movie, favorite part of the
Top
movie?
moment. It's okay. So I mean, I do love that ending.
Yeah.
When she goes up to him, that's just like a really powerful moment. But I really love the scene where Pathfinder starts counting and it leads up to the accident. Especially the first time I watched the movie, that hit me in a big way. I was like, oh, because they recontextualized the whole movie.
Yeah.
So I think that scene, especially on this budget, just worked so well.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in this is probably the same exact vote as you are, Nathaniel. I think that if you were to take one scene and actually like make it into a YouTube short and actually have people interested in it, it would be the Pathfinder scene, because I don't think you necessarily have to know the rest of the movie to just be fascinated by what goes on. Just the idea that everything you can derive from what you see as a guy counting down the beats of the world around him, because he can. You can kind of derive from seeing him count down while everybody's doing these things that he's just listening to the beat of the universe, whatever you want to call it. And that's not enough. Then he goes and he disrupts it just a little bit, and you can see the chain reaction that causes. It ends up getting some guy into a wreck. And it's like that alone, just in one sequence, it's really fascinating. And they did a good job. Like none of that part looked bad. Like it was all done well. Yeah, I could understand if you think it's a little over the top that the Pathfinder was like dancing like this the whole time. Maybe you thought that was weird. That didn't affect me at all. I thought that for the same reason you said, that part was amazing. But yeah, I mean, the ending is really what is the payoff of the whole movie, that you finally get this guy who's just broken and disgusting and made all these bad choices in both worlds. You get the dad sitting by the daughter's bedside in the real world, feeling the same way as Ink in the dream world, sitting by, what could be his deceased daughter and his living daughter, who knows, and doing the same thing and going,
Whoa.
I'm undeserving in any of these moments. There's not anything I can do now, to make it up. It's not like, hey, I'm gonna buy you something, or I'm gonna stick it out now. You've already failed, right? You've already failed as a father in so many ways, and so you can't get out of this mess yourself. But it takes the daughter stepping up and saying, Dad, like it's just really amazing, and there are so many movies out there that just suck so bad. I think that's my main takeaway. Is that
You really
how
thought
many
Monkey Man was better
how
than this?
many movies have
No.
we watched that are just like, in all of these categories don't check the box. They're not creative. This checks the box. Even if you hated it, it's
That is true.
creative.
That is true.
It's not original. It checks the box. It has a really bad message or not a message at all. No. So we watch all these movies that have none of those things. They're sequels of movies with horrible messages, and it's all crap you've seen before. And usually with terrible acting, and so now we get a movie that, again, maybe it does have terrible acting, although in some key moments I thought that it was pretty well done. It is creative, it is unique, and it's got an amazing message. I'm like, all right, I don't even have to be that picky of a person. Like I swear that I think most people that watch this show or interact with us when we're just talking and BSing about movies are probably like, you guys hate all these movies, and it's like, it's really not it.
And we don't want to hate these movies.
No,
Yeah.
it's not it at all.
We like the best thing for us is to watch a movie and us look at each other and go, damn, that was good.
Why would we ever
That's
want
why we
the
watch
opposite?
movies.
Why would we ever
don't-
not
we
want to like
don't
a movie?
like
Yes.
the
Yeah.
movies that we don't like. We're sitting there in agony.
Yeah.
We're like, why will
We
when
do
will
this for you
when will
guys.
the torture end? And then we come and slam it because it made us feel either nothing or feel bad or like give us just like what we wanted out of the movie we didn't get. It's like, again, back to my Tom and Chi thing. It's like it should have, like, on paper, like, oh, this is going to be a tasty meal, and then it comes out and disappoints, and it makes you more antagonistic than if you had no expectations. You went and you were like, well, that was a crappy meal.
Circle.
But when you're like, oh,
That's
this is going to be a
professional
good
stuff right there.
meal, and then it just, like, not only is like bad, it just sucks the joy out of you. and that's what we come here and we don't like that. We don't like feeling. Now, granted, there are movies that are so bad they're good.
Yes.
That is a different kind of thing. Most of the bad movies we talk about are bad because they're
Hey, I don't like him.
like Monkey Man again, for example, like that. Like there's nothing pleasant about it. We don't. It's not fun for us to be like, gosh, boy,
There's
we spent
virtually
2 hours
no
doing
message.
something and we
2 hours,
hated
right.
that. Right? We'd much rather watch a movie and be like, damn, that was good. Like when we're gushing over Godzilla -1, that's a much more enjoyable experience for all of us.
Of course.
Than when we're talking about what was any of the live action Disney remakes or
What's the other one when we did Monkey Man, Strangers, and then what was the third one? Planet of the Apes?
Planet of
Planet
the
of the
Apes,
Apes,
which is just
also
boring.
meh,
But
yeah.
like,
It's watchers, not
but
strangers.
yeah, we don't actively seek out things to hate. We want to love things, but when things don't measure up to our standard, it's important to there is a place to analyze. Okay, why did that not work?
Well, and I think
And
this,
that puts when you put things in context, it elevates like why is this bad, and why is this good, and that helps us identify like what do we like in movies, what do we not like in movies. And again, there are things that and I think one of the things about this movie is that it's a lot easier for a really good, well-told story to save bad acting than for good acting to save a really bad story.
Of course. I agree with that.
well, and I think that's why the movie making field, the industry is a creative field for the exact reason that it requires creativity. And when it's
Sorry, Leo.
when it's taken
That's why I would never make it.
when Hollywood has kind of taken it and said, okay, well, what's worked before? Do that exact thing, virtually the same exact, like literally remake the movie. Oh, that movie worked. Make a sequel. Oh, superhero movies are in. Make all these superhero movies. And the messaging doesn't matter. It's all garbage messaging now. And so now you've got uncreative stuff with bad messaging, and you're like, well, this is the essence of telling a story. Is it needs to be creative, and you need it to have a message that rings true that people can relate to. And you're missing that on like every movie. And the budget doesn't like. This is what makes this movie such a beaming light. Is that it costs what, $200,000?
$250,000.
$250,000.
A $250,000. Okay, but to put that in perspective, Godzilla -1 had a shoestring budget for a major film,
Like nothing.
$15 million,
And that's nothing.
And that's nothing. And that's what Liam, you're good. 60 times the budget of this movie.
And what is a normal Hollywood movie budget? Probably
A low budget, a mid-budget
150
movie,
million?
a mid-budget movie is like 50 to 100.
Yeah.
And a typical blockbuster is 300 plus.
Yeah.
And to think of like Rings of Power is about $1 billion budget. And
Excuse me while I
it's
vomit.
Like, all it shows you is that no amount
Is
of
that
money.
they are clearly money laundering because you look at those shows and you're like, this is not $1 billion.
Yeah,
like-
where's
it's-
that money going?
It's like you can just look at it and be so like it almost makes this movie better that it was so low budget and crappy in some ways, and that the actors just felt like they were probably going back to their job as a plumber after they were done acting. Like there's no way that that's their full and none of these people are full-time actors. And you're like, you did it. You accomplished telling a really creative story with some really creative visuals. I mean, the visuals were really fun, and you told a really powerful message. Good job. Like, that's it. That's all we ask for. It doesn't have to break it's not breaking the internet. I'm not saying it's the greatest movie ever. It really shouldn't even be in that conversation. But I think now it's such a big breath of fresh air because we're going, wow, you could do this with hardly anything.
yeah.
It's like when you go and watch like a student production of a famous musical, where it's like, they don't have the money, they don't have like props, they're just kind of doing the best they can. They're being creative, right? They're super creative with their costumes and with their backgrounds, with the stuff like that. And they're not the best singers, but they can hold the tune. And then but you still get the full impact of that beautiful music and the story that's told through the musical. If it's like Les Mis or something like that, and you're still just like, wow, that's really good. Even though, if you wanted to see it on Broadway, of course, it'd be higher production value and you'd be like blown away. But you're still getting like the story and the emotions, and you still get all of that without that, with all the bells and whistles. And in some ways, it's a purer experience.
Now, do you think?
And this is, and I'm not to say like, oh, low budget movies are inherently better. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that.
Right. You think it would be? We think we'd be talking about it slightly different if we were talking about it in 2009, 10, when, in my opinion, the movie making was way better.
I think that's a very good point.
would it be as shining of a beaming light?
I don't think at all. I think that's a very good point because I think
When I saw it in 2009, I thought it was excellent. I think it's still a really well told story. Now, if I was to say, oh, but would you rather? Well, I don't know what's the movie that came out in 2009.
like
again?
Social Network, like Avatar.
Oh, those are really bad examples, Liam.
Those are
You
two
better-
of
better,
the best
do better.
movies of the century. but
Avatar
yeah.
is the best movie. I thought
You talk about creativity.
didn't like sci-fi.
Talk about creativity.
Pocahontas, but blue.
Yeah,
Bro,
I actually,
You guys
I
are
vote,
so
I vote
ridiculous.
thumbs
Like,
down.
no.
on
You guys
Avatar.
like Ink and you don't like Social Network and Avatar.
Okay, Social
That's
Network's
unbelievable. Inglourious
amazing.
Bastards, Watchmen. All these movies are very good. The Hangover.
Still weren't
What?
great examples.
You guys, this is a great. I want viewers.
I think
to see
I
this,
like
that
Ink
you
more
guys
than
are
any of those
hyping up
movies.
Ink.
It's not.
And I'm listing Inglourious Bastards, The Social Network, and Avatar, and you're like,
No,
thumbs down to
it's-
those three.
no,
You're like,
Avatar's
what?
definitely gonna be a
You
thumbs
guys
down
are
for me, boy.
crazy.
I
You guys
wasn't-
are nuts.
I wasn't
dude.
saying
we
that they
have
were
to clip that because
bad.
that's absurd.
I wasn't saying
That
that they
is
were bad.
absurd.
We're not
I
saying
was
they're
saying,
bad.
I was
I'm
saying that
saying-
there were better examples in 2009.
Like what?
Social Network is
I don't
arguably
know.
the best movie of the 21st century.
I don't know about that.
I really, really like Social Network. I love it. I don't think that.
This is good though because this confirms that I am the right one and you guys are wrong.
No,
Boy,
and
when
Liam,
it
this
comes to
isn't
movies.
an argument that the Ink is better than any of those.
Yeah.
I agreed with your take that,
Yeah.
that
Now-
in,
now-
a,
You
guys are-
in a landscape where better movies and more creative movies are coming out, I probably don't watch it and I'm like, oh, this is just amazing.
Yeah,
they did it with
it
such a
doesn't.
budget.
I don't think it feels like such a breath of fresh air.
But all the story
Right, that's
beats
what I'm saying.
still hit. I mean, like,
no.
it's still a
the
very
breath of fresh air is
creative
definitely
movie.
contextual. But again, I watched this in 2009, and I still thought it was great.
Yeah.
So my
Okay, well,
opinion
that's a-
has not changed. My opinion of movies at the time has gone significantly. Like when I watched it at the time, I wasn't like, "Oh, this is a great movie," but compared to the stuff,
Right, I think
it's
that's
such
a good
breath of fresh air
perspective.
from what I'm seeing in the theaters.
Yeah, we wouldn't
I didn't
have had
think
that
like
take.
that, but now I'm like, wow. This movie from 2009 has a much better story than anything I've seen in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think it's a good perspective because you did
except
see it in
Godzilla minus
2009.
one.
Yeah.
I like Godzilla
Don't
minus
don't
one
you
quite a
think that like that happens a lot now that you go back to whatever this is, like 15, 20 years and you watch some movie that's got a 6.1 on IMDb and you're like, oh, this really didn't make it. You had this random actor and I'll go and you watch it, you're like, that was kind of fun
Yeah,
and that was
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That was just a solid movie.
Yeah.
And then you're just so disappointed because you're like back then when movies were just off the charts, this like got just totally overshadowed.
Yeah.
But now you're like, that would have been so great if a
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
like that could come out in theaters.
Yeah,
The
I mean-
Accountant was that
Yeah.
was
Oh, yeah.
past 2009, but that was an example of that where it's like there must have been a lot of good movies during that time frame because I
Yeah.
didn't hear about
No
The
one heard
Accountant
it,
until
yeah.
like last year.
Yeah. Agreed.
That was a good movie to watch. That was fun.
You like Accountant?
Yeah,
It's
it was
good.
fun.
Yeah, it's very good.
It was really interesting. I mean, it was like Rain Man Assassin.
Yeah, it was. I forget what our title was for that podcast. But was it like
Something like
1 + 1 = death or something?
Yeah, 1 + 1 = dead.
It's like 2 equals 2.
Something like that.
He's 2 + 2 equals dead.
You're welcome. I'm hilarious.
That's a good one.
Chat disagrees with you, Liam. Proves nothing.
About what?
About
your opinion.
2009.
About
Your
Inglourious
opinion,
Bastards.
Okay, Inglourious
Again,
Bastards,
we're not
good
saying
movie.
like, oh, Ink was better than Inglourious Bastards.
When did
That wasn't the
Gladiator
argument.
come out?
That was early. That was like
That was like
2001.
2006.
2000. I think it was actually 2000.
Really?
Yeah.
Master and Commander.
I never watched that.
Earlier. I've never seen that either. But I think it's earlier 2000s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Either you
Russell-
guys
isn't that
ever
Russell-
see,
that's Russell Crowe too, right?
Did
No?
either of you
Yeah.
ever watch Sky Captain and the World Tomorrow?
I never did,
No.
but
So it was like one of the first movies that was all green screen.
yeah, and it was done.
And it was a good movie, but it looks like the camera lens is like coated in Vaseline.
well,
Everything is blurry, like
Like
this weird-
intentionally so?
No, I think it's just like
Oh.
because of the CGI at the time. It came out in like 2002 or 3. It came out a
it looks
long time
kind of
ago.
like Sin
It
City.
looks janky.
You know, like Sin,
Sin City was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah,
But it has that like Sky Captain of the World Tomorrow. It's got that similar feel. Angelina Jolie has an eye patch. That's
Yeah.
something I remember from it. I think it
was pretty
Tom
decent.
Cruise, right?
I think so. I don't remember.
But yeah.
I remember enjoying it, but I also remember
Very unique movie from
But
the
keep in
time.
mind, I also went and saw Agent Cody Banks in theater. So what is I clearly didn't have.
Isn't that good though? I haven't watched that movie.
All I
in
remember
years,
is
but-
Isn't
the
Agent
only
Cody
thing I
Banks
remember.
good?
This is the only thing I
it's
remember about
just-
Agent Cody Banks and remembering like, isn't this movie PG? Like my brain was like, wait a minute. Is he's
the
like
X-ray
trying on?
edition?
No, so like his handler is this incredibly busty blonde lady, like Tits McGee, and he's like playing out with his new gadgets, and he's like, X-ray specs, and he's looking at her, and he's like, yeah, and she's like, and I'm like,
What?
holy crap! I thought this movie was PG, and he's like 10. I'm like, what the hell is
What a
happening?
beast. You guys ever see Big Fat Liar?
Yeah, I did.
that is
I
a
did.
classic.
I thought that was. I think that is a classic. It's early
It's a
Paul
classic.
Giamatti.
Yeah. Amanda Bynes.
Was he in the
Frankie
monkey
Muniz.
suit?
It's well done.
Not interested.
No.
After watching Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, I cannot watch anything with Paul Giamatti in if he's not in a monkey suit.
Fair.
I refuse.
He does blue paint where he's like blue for half the movie because they prank him, but it's not a monkey suit.
That's not worth watching.
All right. Well, all right. So for the viewers at home, we are wrapping up season 2 here. We have got 2 more regular episodes, and then we're going to have our finale episode in which we will have Liam do a side-by-side recording. We are going to do this. We will film it. I will make it happen.
Acting.
Okay.
And Nathaniel will be the sleeping
I will be the comatose
I
daughter.
need
daughter.
the proper prop set up. I need everything to
Yep.
be good.
I'm gonna
though.
need a blonde
Yep.
wig.
We'll do it.
We're not just gonna half-ass that.
No, we're gonna make.
We're gonna
we're
whole ass it.
We're gonna,
I need to dive.
We
into the
are
role.
going to get here early for the
We'll
next
get you a
show and
giant
film it
schnoz.
in the. I will send you your lines.
Yeah, if you can get prosthetics, that would be helpful as well.
Liam with the giant nose. Oh man,
I
that's
bet
gonna be so
my mom's
good.
pretty handy. I bet I could ask her to make
If you
like
could
that.
actually work that,
I bet we could figure
would
it
wear
out.
it for
It's
sure.
a modeling clay or
There is
something.
not a chance in the entire world. I'll bet my life savings that you, with a giant prosthetic nose, with Nathaniel acting as your daughter, could do anything remotely close to what that man
I will
did.
dive into
Wait,
it. Man,
why
I'll
are you
tell
bringing me into this? I'm in a coma. I don't have to do anything. I'm gonna
I
nail
think
this
just
part.
looking at you,
I'm gonna
I'll
nail this
laugh,
part.
though.
Yeah, I'll get a blonde wig. Then it'll be fine.
You can't smirk or anything though.
have a blonde wig.
Okay, you have to take it seriously.
Yeah,
or else I'll laugh.
I'll bring an IV bag and a pillow.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, so we're gonna finish up with a couple normal episodes, then our finale, and we will be briefing your finale what you can expect with season 3. We will also be picking our Mad Lib winner, and then executing the short film.
We're gonna kill the
We're
short
gonna be
film.
premiering it
You're
with
gonna execute it in cold blood.
That's when Liam gets to prove his acting chops right there. If it's
yeah,
better
I'm
than
more like a
ink,
gritty actor. Just as a heads up, if it doesn't.
we're gonna
look
have to
good.
make it gritty. We're gonna have to get some like paintball
Well,
guns. and-
it honestly depends on whichever Mad
no,
Lib we
whichever
pick.
one we pick, we're gonna make it gritty,
Oh
Yeah,
my
we should make
gosh.
it gritty.
and we're gonna hit the gritty while making it gritty.
I'm
But
like
for these
Clint
last
Eastwood.
for the last 2 episodes, we've just been going out with the 3 of us. So
our turn.
these last 3, Nathaniel picked this one. He picked Ink. Liam is picking next week, and he has picked
My
Goodwill
His favorite movie,
My
Old
favorite
Boy.
movie of all time, Goodwill Hunting.
Monsters Incorporated.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
That's a good movie. Yeah.
And then I will be picking the final week. I will let you guys know what I pick on our show in 2 weeks. Until then, what do you got to say to the folks, guys?
Liam sucks.
Twas a pleasure. Thank you for all the audience that agreed with me. I saw the chat.
All
It was
0
overwhelming,
people.
Nobody
overwhelming
agreed with
response.
you.
to
0
agree
plus
with me.
0 times 0 equals.
Thank you guys. I hear you. You're heard. I'm your voice.
Nobody
No
heard you.
commento.
Loud and clear.
The voice of the voiceless because there's no one there.
The silent
The silent
minority.
minority of 0.